Yesterday evening, that's the 19th of March 2020, a very special meeting was held online amongst people who have considerable unusual knowledge and experience, but keep out of the public eye. And what was disclosed during the course of this meeting was partially a confirmation of things we already knew, such as the Robert Koch Institute in Germany being controlled by a satanic cult, and the World Health Organization controlled by the same cult. But things we also didn't know. We suspected, but this has now been confirmed, that what's actually happening is an enormous expansion of consciousness in humanity, well, not just humanity, of the entire planet. And if this proceeds unchecked, then those who have been ruling the planet for the last few hundred years, some say the last few thousand, will rapidly lose their special privilege and no longer be able to exploit the rest of us. So they come up with a clever plan to set the world in panic. And that's what this Corona thing is all about. It's about panic. Now, they are highly skilled black magicians running this operation, but there are a couple of things that they can't do. So the word that they use that follows corona, I will not take it into my mouth. It's the Latin word for poison. But they've been able to charge this word with so much fear that every time you hear it, and especially every time you say it, you get a shock of fear. And this begins to gradually paralyze your system. Now, let me show you what happens. You see, fear is primarily about the expectation or the fear of not being loved, the fear of losing love. It's about separation, trauma from the parents. And this hits the kidneys. Now, the kidneys are in the middle of the back. I'll add in a graphic here so you can see exactly where they are. And amongst many other things, the energy which the heart requires passes through the kidneys and up to the heart. Now, if fear is dominating your life, then the kidneys contract. And one of the effects of this is that the heart doesn't get enough energy. And when the heart doesn't get enough energy, there then becomes a problem with the lungs. So what we get is that the heart has to take energy away from the lungs in order to keep functioning, because it's not getting enough from the kidneys, with the result that liquids tend to gather in the lungs. And this is exactly the symptoms of this so-called corona thingy. It's all about fear. There is no microorganism involved. It's a word which has been charged using black magic to bring you into fear. Now, you've heard probably of the word mantra. Now, mantra is actually a precise science. It's based upon the thing that everybody's experienced, that is particular sounds, particular pieces of music. They can have direct effects upon your thoughts, upon your feelings, upon your body, upon your environment. Something that everybody's experienced, but here in the Western world, it's been very little researched other than by these black magicians. And in the East, it's a very different story, as it's been very widely and very deeply researched, which is why most mantra are in one of the Indian or the Rusved or Chinese languages. You could write them in English, or any European language for that matter, but in order for that to continue working as a mantram for an indefinite period, it has to be sealed by a Satguru, which means that the black magicians can't do it because they have no connection. They have chosen to separate themselves from the flow of divinity. So they can't seal the mantram. They have to keep repeating the load all the time. So what we have to do is to break the pattern. And one of the things that I was told about very early this morning, it's about 4:30, I think, was that the antidote for this psychic disease that they're spreading is the humble daisy. Yeah, you know those. Grow almost everywhere on the planet. The botanical name is, I've forgotten what the Latin name is, but it actually translates into English as the constant warrior, the warrior that never stops. And it's the nature of this plant to take over patches of earth which are, for most plants, uninhabitable. There's not sufficient nutrients for most plants to live there. And they revitalize the earth by putting nutrients from the air into the soil. In the garden with the house where I'm staying at the moment, you see it's exactly half the garden is the earth is, almost completely used up, and almost nothing grows apart from daisies. The other half, which is still quite in order, no daisies, lots of grass. And it's the people who own the house. There's an enormous heap of compost, but they never get round to taking it out of the compost bins and putting it into the earth. So the daisies are doing it for them. Now, the daisy is not just a plant for healing the earth. It's a plant for healing people and, in fact, all animals. The flower is very edible, has a very slight bitter aftertaste, but it is slight, it's not extreme. And in many countries, you'll find daisies appearing in salads. So you just eat them. Now, this slight bitterness is the sign that this plant gives heat or generates heat. And this is exactly what your kidneys need to expand. So ginger compressors on your kidneys as well will do this very similar thing. But daisies are cheaper. And so once your kidneys expand, your heart gets enough energy and the lungs no longer gather liquids. So it's a very cheap, very inoffensive, very simple way of boosting your resistance to this attack. This is a deliberate attack upon the whole of humanity. Also, very, very important, stop using their word. Change the name. Call it Coronadaisy. And the effect is that instead of going into contact, into resonance with the fear that they are broadcasting via the Wi-Fi systems, via the phone systems, via the 5G systems, you go out of resonance with that, and you go into resonance with the other flow of energy which is coming to humanity at the moment, which causes this massive expansion of consciousness. So, Coronadaisy, please, everywhere, written, said, never even to think of that word, but only think of Coronadaisy. Or new graphics and artist people make me some nice pictures of Coronadaisy made out of daisies, or just the word Corona made out of daisies. And avoid also this code that they've invented, which is just a substitute for the Latin poison word. It's easier to program because it doesn't have any general meaning. Just avoid it completely. So, henceforth, Coronadaisy, and be true to yourself, be who you really are, and just step out of this fear-mongering. Okay, now, there are two mantras, well, one mantra and one invocation, which are extremely useful. One is quite short and easy, and that strengthens the kidneys, powers the kidneys, and it has only a few words, so it's easy to learn. That one you have to sing yourself. Then there is a much longer one. It takes about 10 minutes to go through it once. It's called the Sri Hanuman Chalisa. And this has the effect of deleting all destructive energies, all destructive thought patterns. Whether they come from you or whether they come from outside, it doesn't matter, it just deletes them. And the beautiful thing about this is you don't have to learn it. You can if you want to, no problem. It's even more powerful if you sing it, but it has a very strong effect just by listening to it, and it doesn't have to be played loud. It's totally sufficient if it's loud enough so that when you put your ear against the speaker, you can just hear it, because it's the vibration, the frequencies that it puts out, that has the effect. So I'll be putting those up on one of my web pages during the course of this evening for everyone to download. And let's just go for it. Turn a world panic into a daisy victory. Thank you. Namaste.